What's going on, everyone? Bran here, about to give you the bloody breakdown on my personal ranking of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise post Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. Alright, so I know I'm doing a lot of ranking videos here lately, but I gotta tell you, it's something that I felt like maybe I was gonna fall behind on. I didn't want to do it. So, if you don't know, I have ranked the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise before, but we are now going to update that. Let's see if any movies have slid down the list, perhaps move up the list, and where the new Netflix Texas Chainsaw Massacre falls into my ranking. So before we get started, as always, this is just my personal opinion. I'd love to know what you all think down below in the comment section. Feel free, let me know your ranking of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. So without further ado, let's go ahead, let's jump in, and let's check out my Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise ranking. So, starting out at number 9, because this is a 9-entry franchise, starting out at number 9, we have 2017's Leatherface. The less said about this thing, the better. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it because I really don't like bashing horror. It's my favorite genre. One of the main reasons I have this channel is to promote horror. So a lot of times, if I think it's abject trash, I try not to even speak on it unless it's certain films here or there that I've done in the past. But Leatherface from 2017, it does not feel like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film to me. It feels like someone had already written a movie and decided that, hey, we have the rights to Leatherface in the Chainsaw franchise, so let's just slap that character and that name on this and we'll just roll with it. Not a fan of this film. If I'm gonna watch the entire franchise, sure, I'll watch it, but otherwise, I skip this one most of the time. So yeah, that's number 9. The less said, the better. Do not like this movie. Moving on to number 8, Texas Chainsaw 3D from 2013. Now, here's one that I think had a lot of potential, but boy, did they fuck it up. They really blew it with this one. Watching the beginning moments of this film, you feel like you're in for something that you haven't seen in this franchise in a long time, and for fans of the franchise watching the beginning of this thing, you get super excited to see where this thing may be going, and it quickly goes off the rails and never makes it back on the tracks, in my estimation. This is, for those who are wondering, the Do You Thing Cuz movie. It's not good. It's not a good time. I'll say it's probably better than Leatherface, but low bars. So once again, the less said about this thing, the better. I mean, there's some eye candy in this one. I guess that's about it. So let's go ahead and move on, folks, to number 7. And this is one that I think that a lot of people would have probably put this way lower. But for me, it's nostalgia and it's a guilty pleasure. It is what it is. But it's at number 7 for me. So that's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation from 1995 with Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger. This movie is batshit insane. It is off the walls. I said earlier that Leatherface didn't feel like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie to me. The Next Generation is like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre on crack, or meth. Whatever kind of drug you want to apply to this one that kind of falls under that banner, that's what it is. It's Texas Chainsaw on acid. It's pretty insane. And to see actors and actresses that would go on to be, big Hollywood stars in this thing is very entertaining as well. Is it a good movie? Absolutely not. Is it entertaining? Most definitely. You get one of the best final girl moments out of this movie when Renee Zellweger's character basically tells Leatherface to shut the fuck up and sit down, and he listens. I really enjoyed this movie. I openly acknowledge it's bad, it's poorly made, whatever, but I personally enjoy it, even with its weird Illuminati subplot and all. So moving on to number 6, we are going to talk about Leatherface: The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 from 1990. This one, for me, I really enjoy the violence and the gore in this one. It is kicked up a notch At least in my estimation. It's one of those movies that I do enjoy watching. I like Ken Faree probably better than anything else about this movie. I'm a fan of his. And it's not one of those movies that anything huge really stands out about, but I just overall enjoy the film. I think it's okay. It's well done. And I definitely watch this is one of the ones I'll never skip. When watching the franchise, having a marathon there. But I do enjoy it. Viggo Mortensen's also a part of this one, so that's pretty cool. Leatherface has an interesting design in this one. I don't know if I really like it or not, but I think overall this movie is passable, serviceable. There's not really any big moments where I cringe like I do in some of the other ones that I just mentioned. So that's why it's going to land here at number 6. As we move on to number 5, and that is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Beginning, from 2006. Now, I know a lot of people would probably move this one on up the list, a lot of fans of this one. Now, I will say I do enjoy this movie's kills. I think it has some of the better kills in the entire franchise. It was cool to see, his name escapes me, but it was cool to see the same guy play Leatherface 2 films in a row. It was good to see Lee back in this one. A lot of the same characters from the 2003 reboot, which we'll get to here momentarily. But yeah, I mean, it's a good film. I enjoy it. As far as the kills go, I think they were really well done. But other than the kills, nothing really stands out too much to me in this one, other than the things that I have kind of mentioned. So it really doesn't quite touch the level of the 2003 remake that this one is in the same vein as, but I do enjoy it. It's got a passable story, and overall it's a pretty damn good entry in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. So we'll move on here to number 4, and this is where people are gonna probably get a little upset at me here, because if you noticed, especially the haters of that new Netflix film, you have not heard me mention it yet, and we're getting pretty high on the list here. Let's talk about it, because it's coming in at number 4, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. Now, I know a lot of people, well, let's just say this, the horror fandom is divided on this one. It seems pretty well 50-50 from what I understand, from what I've gathered, looking at social media on, Twitter, Reddit, things of that nature. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was probably one of the best Texas Chainsaw Massacre films we've gotten in quite some time. Probably since the 2003 remake. But honestly, I mean, are there characters in here that are, underdeveloped? Yes. Is the story 100% all together there? No flaws, no plot holes here? No, I can't say that either. But at the same time, it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film, let's be perfectly honest. And in a franchise that has given us more duds than wins, let's just say that, more L's than dubs, I think this one comes out on the W column. I think that the ending is amazing. It was really cool, even though we didn't see a lot of her, to have the character of Sally back in the mix. Even though it was, kind of the Laurie Strode Halloween 2018 deal. It was just cool to have the character back, I think. And overall, it's a fun movie. That's the thing. Do I think it's a great movie? No. Do I think it's fun? Absolutely. So there it is, number 4, the new Netflix Texas Chainsaw Massacre film from this year. Alright, so we're moving into the top 3 now. Who's going to take home the bronze? It is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003, the remake with Jessica Biel. Man, I gotta tell you, as far as horror remakes go, it's like this one and Evil Dead and The Thing from John Carpenter really pop into my mind. And even Dawn of the Dead as well from 2004. Some of the best horror remakes I've ever seen. This is one of them. There are people out there that contest this is better than the original, and they have some valid points to say that. But for me, absolutely adore this movie. As you can tell, coming in at number 3 out of a 9-part franchise. Really enjoyed it. Really love most of the performances in this one. And it's just overall a good movie. It's a good time. It's a good movie. It's really the best of both worlds, because when I look at a film, I think about 2 major things. Is it good, and is it fun? And I think this one, honestly, puts both of those 2 together quite well. So that's why the 2003 remake comes in at number 3. So with only 2 films left, 2 spots left, let's jump into number 2. Interestingly enough, at number 2, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 from 1986. Man, I gotta tell you, now it's a huge departure from what the original film was. For some reason, Tobe Hooper thought the original was a dark comedy. I don't know where the hell he got that from. It looks to me straight up horror. So he kind of leaned into the more comedy part in this one. But it doesn't take away from your horror and gore aspects in this thing. I mean, I'll just be honest with you. This movie is still very gory, very violent, crazy kills. And I gotta tell you, the character of Stretch was one of my favorites as a young Bran. I have to be perfectly honest with you. Leatherface wasn't the only one busting nuts in his pants over Stretch. I just gotta say that. Maybe that's why this movie comes in at number 2. And you know what? It definitely couldn't hurt. I'll say that. But my omissions aside, I love this movie. I think it's a really good balance between the comedy and the horror, to where it doesn't take away too much from the horror and take away from what the original did. I really like it. Always have. Great Oingo Boingo song at the beginning. Nobody Lives Forever, as the opening victims are taken out. So I just really enjoy this movie. Just so well done. Can't say enough good about it, especially for a comedy horror, especially for a movie taking a big risk after the original with this sequel. I think it knocks it out of the park in my estimation. So that only leaves one film left for the number 1 spot, and if you're keeping track at home, you'll know it's 1974's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original film in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. And I mean, I'm sorry, it's one of those things. I'll tell you this, part 2 comes close on occasion to beating it, but the original has always come out on top in my ranking. I will say it's very close this time. I sat down re-ranking this thing, and I thought to myself, maybe part 2 is going to take the lead this time, but I gotta say, at the end of the day, it's the fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre, man. It's the original Tobe Hooper classic. I really wish that the crew and the actors and actresses didn't have to go through some of the hell they did to make this movie, but god damn it if it isn't some amazing art. And it's just such a classic movie. I mean, before Michael Myers, before Halloween, as it's regarded as the blueprint for these type of movies, before that, 4 years before that, was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So it even serves as a blueprint to what is now known as the blueprint for slasher horror. So you can't say enough good about this thing. The movie makes me uncomfortable, which is great, by the way. I enjoy that. I enjoy that when I'm watching horror, feeling uncomfortable from time to time, because that's kind of part and parcel what it's supposed to be about. But it's just such a enthralling and just uncomfortable, anxious experience every time I watch it, no matter how many times I watch it. You just feel dirty after watching this movie. But it's just done so well. Can't say enough good about it. Obviously one of the best slasher films ever made, in my estimation. And that's why it's number 1 for this franchise. And yeah. So with that said, like I said at the top of the video, I want to know what you all think. Leave me your rankings down below in the comment section. How do you rank the 9-entry Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise? And what do you think about my rating? Love it? Hate it? Hey, let me know. Leave me a like. Leave me a dislike. Yeah. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check the description section down below with links to support this channel, or follow me on Twitter. And with that said, I'm Bran, and you just got the bloody breakdown on my personal Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise ranking.